Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk to you about Elden Ring, the new From Software game, the game that everyone's basically been talking about, and I'm going to give my opinions on it after beating the game and basically almost 100%ing it, doing all the bosses and everything. So Elden Ring is a game that relies on you to explore and will reward you greatly to explore the areas and find bosses before fighting other bosses. And there are main story bosses called great bosses, great enemies, and then there are the smaller just bosses. And so you're gonna want to explore, and you're gonna want to find secrets, and you're gonna want to find ways to enhance your build to fight these great bosses. And then you're also going to fight then demigods, which there are a few in the game that you will go through, and those demigods will greatly change the story, I guess you could say. It will greatly progress the story. Those are the big story progression bosses. So Elden Ring is a game where there are millions of different builds, it seems. There is different magic builds, there are different types of magic builds. So there's the casters, but then there's also pure sorcerers, but then there's also melee casters, which only use the melee skills, and then there's battle mages, which use a wide variety of skills and then use a weapon along with it. There are katana builds, bleed builds, bow builds. Bows are viable now in this game. There are so many different builds in this game that you will never feel like there's not a build for you. There's a friend that I have, and he's going for a bleed, sorcery, just a bunch of weird stuff, because you get so much XP in this game, because there's so many bosses in this game, that you're able to level up your character in skills that you didn't even think you were going to level up. It is phenomenal how well made this game is in that department. Dark Souls has always been known for different skills and skill changing and stuff, but this game in particular is very good at just emulating that and making it to where you can pick whoever you want and do whatever you want. And there are a bunch of different weapons too, a bunch of different weapon skills returned from Dark Souls 3, where you have these amazing, like, flashy anime looking moves that usually aren't very effective, but in this game they're very effective. It seems they've definitely buffed the skills. Some of the best weapons, some of the best arts you can use are skills. Bosses are a bit faster, it seems, so the whole game is a bit faster, which kind of makes you have to play either more patient or actually match their speed. But matching their speed can be very difficult, because bosses now, the AI has been insanely improved to where they will dodge spells, they will dodge your attacks, they will find openings when you're vulnerable. They don't really follow a flow chart like pattern anymore, like they did in Dark Souls 3 and 2 and 1, where like maybe they'll like walk really slowly towards you. No, they're actually really smart now, and it's pretty brutal at times in the end game bosses and stuff. But the cool thing about this game is you can then go and do something else, and then you can come back and then kick their ass. It's a very refreshing feeling in a game. There's several like major game choices that you'll end up making in the game that impact the ending, and there's a lot of different things you can do to get different endings. There are a few different endings, and I thought I would go ahead and basically explain this a little bit. Basically, there's NPCs, and the NPCs you can talk to, and then you can do their quest lines, and then their quest lines lead to a different area, and then those different areas can have different bosses, and then you basically impact the game's ending. So the game isn't just a linear path like Dark Souls 3. There's a lot of different choices you can make, and it really does impact everything, and does even change what bosses you're able to fight. I finished my first playthrough, and I went back and I was like, oh, I didn't fight that boss, after looking through the trophy list. And that's because I can't fight that boss. I have to go and do another NPC's quest, which would have betrayed another NPC. So definitely a very expansive, large game. It took me about 83 hours to beat, and I did a lot. I explored a lot. I did some co-op with some friends. But yeah. Last mechanic I want to touch over is a mechanic called Spirits. Spirits is a new mechanic where you can summon wolves, you can summon an archer, you can summon these NPCs that can fight alongside you. But the difference between these summons and the older summons back in Dark Souls 3 is you can summon them on the fly. So you can summon them at any time in the boss battle, and then, of course, once they die, they're dead and you can't re-summon them. But this kind of helps you change the boss's aggro, especially because the aggro is very fine-tuned to just want to kill you now, compared to Dark Souls 3, again, where they walk kind of slowly and stuff. But, yeah, the Ash of Wars and the different spirits are mechanics that are very fine-tuned to help the player in finding their playstyle. So sorcerers would probably want to use these spirits to try to distract so you can cast some spells or something. So yeah, Elden Ring is a very large and expansive game, and we don't really know everything about it yet. We don't really know the whole entire picture. We don't really know the whole entire different builds and stuff you can find. People are already finding crazy builds on the internet, and there's a lot of guides out there that people are following, people are creating, and it's really just a whole community effort to try to figure out this game and try to figure out everything that Miyazaki has created. I give Elden Ring a 10 out of 10 score. If I were to give it a score, it's not a perfect game. It has a few problems. It has a lot of problems towards the end, but I think overall, it being a 83-hour game where it's pretty much all gameplay, like you can take like a JRPG and like be like, oh well, this is 120 hours, this is 140 hours, but this game is all gameplay. It does have a story, it does have dialogue and lore, but that goes on for like 4 minutes. There really is like 83 hours of gameplay here, and there is so much you can do in this game. So I think for that alone, it kind of re-genreifies open world games in general, and I'm going to give it a 10 score. Not a perfect score, like 10s don't mean it's perfect, but it does mean that it has reinvented its genre in a way, and I feel like it is the peak high fantasy game you can get.